Are you watching Game of Thrones for the first time and are a little confused? Or are you rewatching or just want to rewatch and don't have the time? Well, here I am. I'm going to rewatch Game of Thrones and recap it for you. I haven't rewatched Game of Thrones since House of the Dragon Begins, so this is like seeing it with a whole new set of eyes. And hopefully that helps you to get over the confusion or just remember things you might have forgotten. So we start out the episode going beyond the wall. We see 3 rangers going beyond the wall. Insert joke there. And one of the rangers, the one who we see above me, sees smoke and goes to investigate. He sees corpses. Corpses everywhere. Corpses on the ground, corpses on the tree, dismembered corpses, bloody corpses, all kinds of corpses. So he runs to go tell his other 2 friends, look what I found. When he tells them this, one of them just blows it off and says, oh, it was the wildlings fighting. And he's like, I don't think so. And the other guy kind of believes him and he goes, why don't you go see where they went? So as he's walking around looking for the corpses and he takes them to where the corpses are, they're gone. Every body part, every corpse, all the blood, everything gone. So now they think he's lying to them or he's losing his mind. But the guy who did believe him said, okay, go figure out what's going on. So as he goes, he sees this, probably one of the most chilling images of a child ever presented on television. Thanks, HBO. So he sees her, and meanwhile, the friend who didn't believe him, he hears him screaming. We know we're not seeing him again. He now believes what this man was telling him. And then the one who kind of sort of believed him comes up, and he is done in by a White Walker. So this man does what any sensible man would have done and runs for his life. Then we get a new scene, and we are at Winterfell, which I happen to love because in this household, we know no king but the King of the North, whose name is Stark. So, first thing we see is we see Jon, Bran, and Robb practicing archery. And they're joking around, they're having a good time. Little Bran, he's like 10, and he's having trouble hitting the target. And then we cut to the scene of the 2 girls sewing, and the older sister's getting praise, and the little sister hears them laughing, and she hears the arrows going, and so she kind of sneaks away. Then we go back downstairs, and it cuts to the boys doing the archery, and what we see is young Arya Stark, from way behind her brother Bran, take 1 arrow, pew, straight to the target. Katniss Everdeen ain't got nothing on this kid. So we are told that the deserter has been brought to Winterfell because he deserted the Night's Watch, and that's punishable by... So Ned goes, because he's the Warden of the North, and he takes his sons, Robb, his ward, Theon, who we can see in that picture, his bastard child, Jon Snow, and his son, Bran. Now, he wanted to bring Bran, but the mother didn't want him to bring it. So what he tells her is that he's not going to be young forever, and winter is coming. So Ned carries out the punishment, as we can see above, and then he tells his youngest, Bran, he says, the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Bran asks him if he believed what the man was saying, and he says, a madman sees what he sees. Just leaving it at that. As they're going back to Winterfell, they come across a deceased moose with very bad injuries, and then they come across a deceased direwolf with multiple injuries. The direwolf had 5 puppies. They wanted to put the puppies out of their misery, but Jon Snow turns around and says, Lord Stark, you can't do this. These puppies are the sigil of your house. There were 5 puppies. You have 5 children. They belong with them. And before they left, there was a 6th puppy, a runt of the litter that they didn't see. And Jon Snow got that puppy. Next scene, we see Bells in King's Landing. Don't mind me, I have post-traumatic bell disorder from this show. However, we go to the crypt and we see Jon Arryn laying there on a slab. Cersei and Jaime are talking, and Cersei goes, Jaime, what if Jon Arryn said anything? And apparently they're hiding a secret. And Jaime said, if your husband, the king, knew, we would have no heads. So there's a secret being kept. The next scene we have is of these 2 in the Godswood, which is a very revered and religious place for the old gods, which are Ned's gods. Catelyn prays to the new god, so they have different religions, but they still manage to make their marriage work. And Catelyn tells him of a raven that tells of Jon Arryn's passing, and also says that King Robert is coming to visit. Now, Ned was very saddened by Jon Arryn's death, seeing as Jon Arryn was a father figure to Ned for many, many years. And he actually knows what King Robert wants when he's coming. We cut to preparations being made for the King's cavalcade coming into town. And the first time we see the King's cavalcade, it was on a roadway far down, and we realize that it was Bran Stark climbing to the very, very tops of Winterfell to see this. He scurries down to tell his mother that the King is coming, and Catelyn immediately admonishes him for climbing such a high tower and tells him not to do that because he's going to get hurt, and makes him promise, even though he lies, that he's never going to do it again. Cut to Miss Arya Stark, who jumps on an empty wagon to get a better view of the cavalcade, and she puts on a silver battle helmet, which, look how cute she looks. So as the king is passing, something catches her eye, and it's a man whose full helmet was a wolf. Full helmet, wolf, dog, head, it looked like her sigil, and it caught her eye. And we learn later that that was the Hound. Now, Arya's not supposed to be there. She's supposed to be in the receiving line of the king. They're calling her name. She's nowhere to be found because she's on an empty carriage. But she gets there just in time. Now, just to bring you up to speed, if this is your first time watching, starting from the right, we have Rickon Stark, the youngest son and the youngest child of Catelyn and Eddard Stark, also known as Ned. Those are the parents. Then we have Robb, who is the eldest son. We have Sansa, who is the eldest daughter. We have Arya Stark, who is the youngest daughter, and we have Bran, who is the second youngest child and also second youngest son. And just because, that's Hodor. Robert is greeted. He hugs Ned. He shakes Robb's hand. He kisses Catelyn. He tousles Rickon's hair. He says that he wants to know who Arya was. He says Sansa's beautiful, and he talks to Bran, and then immediately he wants to go to the crypt to see Lyanna and pay his respects. As Ned takes him down into the crypt, they're talking about how they could have been brothers-in-law, and they should have been, and he there asks Ned to help him as hand as the king, because he's the only one he trusts. Ned helped him get the throne, now he has to help him rule the throne. He also mentions to Ned, I have a son, you have a daughter, so he wants to marry his son, Prince Joffrey Baratheon, to Sansa Stark, and that would make her the next queen of the Seven Kingdoms. He goes on to look at Lyanna and says, you know I kill him every night in my dreams. And Ned's like, the Targaryens are gone. He's like, not all of them. And cut to Daenerys Targaryen and her brother Viserys Targaryen in Essos. They seemingly have fled the country, and Viserys is trying to build an army to get his 7 kingdoms back, and he should rightfully sit on the Iron Throne. So, he is going to marry his sister, Daenerys, off to Khal Drogo, who has the Dothraki army, and the Dothraki army is a powerful, powerful army. So he wants that army behind him, so when he goes to Westeros, he can conquer quite easily. And Daenerys doesn't want to marry Khal Drogo, but he does not care. He tells her you're going to marry him and you're going to make him happy. And then we see her get into a very, very scalding hot bath without burning. They've been staying with this benefactor Illyrio, and he, as a wedding present, gives beautiful Daenerys eggs, and they're dragon eggs, and they've turned to stone. But they were legitimately dragon eggs, and they were of her families for many, many years. It is also in this wedding scene that we meet Ser Jorah Mormont from Bear Island, and he gives her the histories and songs of the 7 kingdoms because he wants her to know of her past. It is right before this scene that we see here when Viserys is talking to her about their wedding, and he says, look at his braids, and he tells her how a Dothraki's braids are significant and equivocal to their battles. So as many battles as they've won, that's how many braids they have. And when a Dothraki loses battle, they cut their braids. I didn't expect this to run as long as it did, but join me for part 2, and we will finish discussing episode 1, season 1 of Game of Thrones.